before I start, I do want to test your knowledge on marketing. So just a couple of quick questions. Just raise your hands if you know the answer. Why are marketers afraid of trampolines? Anyone? Someone said it back there. High bounce rates. That's correct. Another quick one. What is Dracula's favorite type of marketing? Anyone? Someone said it earlier in their talk. Account-based marketing. All right, and last cheesy one before I move on. Why did the marketer break up with her boyfriend? Anyone? Lack of engagement. Come on, simple. All right, let's get going. With that said, my name is Parag Pathak. I'm the team lead at IBM Security. I won't talk too much about IBM Security. It's a great company. Lots of jobs. Join if you can. But beyond that, this session is really about what you can do on a daily basis to be more strategic at your workplace. So with that said, I know I just gave you some jokes, but this one is a serious joke. We've all been here, right? You got cross-functional stakeholders, might be product managers, engineers, sales. Heck, when I was at startups, the CEOs were involved in this, and they're giving out some great ideas. And that's me, and that's you right down there. Hey guys, all great ideas, but what's our strategy? And no one knows, right? So they're not saying the wrong things. They're all great ideas. The only problem is they're all tactical, executional, and ways of getting your strategy out the door. What happens when you listen to all of these stakeholders without having a strategy? Anyone got that question before? By the way, if you don't follow Marketunist, I highly recommend you do. I start my days with that. So we all know it's not a simple question, right? Especially when you don't have a strategy and you're at a big company like I am. We have multitude of products, solutions, buyers, partners, go-to-market routes, different SaaS models, on-prem models. It gets very complicated fast, which is why it's even more important to have a strategy in place. So with that said, my neighborhood-friendly Spider-Man came over yesterday and told me with great power comes great responsibility. Product marketing holds a very powerful role in any organization, especially mine. That's one of the reasons we're all here today. Our companies are spending time on us so that we can get more strategic and help the business grow. I took a step back and I looked at all the things I was working on this week, and I created a crappy word cloud. That's a different story. But things you notice up there, right? There's a lot of tactical things like data sheets, social tweets, what else I got? Case studies, webinars, everyone loves them. One thing that's hard to do, when you have so much stuff going on a daily basis, it's hard to step back and look at the strategic picture, right? And that's, I think, one of the places a lot of us struggle with. And depending on the size of the company, whether it's an enterprise or startup, these responsibilities may vary, but I can guarantee that each one of us gets overworked in terms of tactical execution. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it's one I kind of visit every now and then just to remind myself. And I love it because it has the perfect balance of balancing strategy and execution. Without strategy, execution is aimless. Without execution, the strategy is useless, right? And many product marketers I talk to, including myself, are really good at the execution piece. Where we struggle to get to is really the strategy piece. And that's why I wanted to come up here today and talk to you about what works for me, what I've seen in my experience, what I've heard others do, that really helps them elevate the conversation so that you can get a seat at the table. So before I get into the 5 steps that I've learned over the years, one thing I want to talk about is product marketing, right? So each one of us brings unique value to the table. And I believe that's really, that's explained by all of our different journeys to get to product marketing. There's no set path to get to product marketing. I've had people come in from engineering, product management, other functions within marketing who want to get into product marketing. So everyone's bringing different backgrounds, but the ones that have succeeded the most, the ones that are doing the best jobs at product marketing, are those that can elevate the conversations and their strategies into a strategic function for the organization. So again, that's something we are going to focus on in these 5 steps, on what are these things you can do on a daily basis to really get you there. It's not a out-of-the-box solution. I want to put that out there. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes consistency, as a lot of people mentioned in earlier talks today. And this works for me. Doesn't mean it might work for you, but It's a great start. I know someone mentioned earlier, the worst thing you can do is not start. So if you want to start somewhere, you can start with these 5. You can add on new ones. I have a blog out there. Just comment and tell me more that worked for you. I'd love to learn myself, and we can go from there. So first thing, in being more strategic, don't be a garbage collector, right? What do I mean by garbage? It's anything and everything no other cross-functional stakeholder wants to do and doesn't necessarily fall under product marketing. So my first day on my job at IBM, I was doing a lot of that. And there's the strategy behind that as well, right? So what are some great examples of garbage? Technical spec updates, program management. You're managing meetings for other stakeholders to make decisions. One-off sales requests that sound amazing, but they're only short-lived for about a day, right? So all of these things are really garbage collections that add time to your already, you're already pressed for time. You're adding all of this on top of that. It's hard for you to break through that and actually get to the strategic aspects of things. At the same time, you have to be careful, right? Some of these garbage pieces could actually be good things. They're actually diamonds in the rough. Thanks, Aladdin. So one thing about that, what are those? How do you spot those? There's no easy answer. It takes time to learn the organization and what makes sense. But for me, a couple of diamond in the roughs that I've found in my experience are really those one-off sales requests that I just said are garbage. I've used those to really leverage relationships with our sellers. And anytime I go into a new company, one of the first things I try to do is make friends with 1 or 2 sales leaders who I know are impactful, resourceful, and someone who other sales reps listen to. By partnering with them, you can really build a connection where you get the news firsthand from them around what's happening, what's working. You can test message your positioning, your new assets with them, and so forth. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind is take on the garbage, but just limit it in the beginning. And as you get better at it, you'll find yourself having more time to do the strategic work, which is really the messaging, the positioning, buyer personas, win-loss analysis, which you have more sessions about later on as well. Second big thing I want to focus on the market and buyers. So before I get into the slide, do you guys all have the app downloaded on your phone? All right, so we're going to push a notification on there for a quick poll. Hopefully you got it. Hopefully I got it. I just have a quick question for all of you on there. Rachel, is it on there already? Do you see it? Oh, yep. So the question is, it's in the activity stream if you haven't found it. The question is, do you feel you understand your market and buyers better or your product? So just quick 10 seconds to fill that out. All right, I think that's enough time.
Results coming in hot, 61 votes. Give it one more second.
All right, let's call it.
Okay, we got 25% say they know their market and buyers better. 52% are saying product, and 23% say both.
Awesome, and that's kind of what I expected. I used to be heavy on products as well. In the last couple of years, I've really started shifting towards the market and the buyers. The easy reason for that, and Pragmatic talks about this as well for those of you interested, but there are a lot of product experts within the company. They bleed the product. They love talking about it, whether it's the CTPs, tech sellers, product management professionals. The big difference when it comes to this, and you can see it when you go to events, right? Has anyone sent engineers to the events or product managers? Here's how the meeting goes, right? A prospect comes to the booth and asks, what do you do? And the product management person simply says, well, thanks for coming. We're IBM Security. Here's what we do. Here's some cool features. Here's a demo that's already pre-canned. That's a problem, right? You're not solving customer problems here. By being market and buyer-centric, here's a conversation you can have as a product marketer. A prospect walks in, asks what you do, a quick spiel, elevator spiel on what IBM Security is, and then twist the question back to them. This is what we do. I'm curious to know about your environments. How many SOC analysts do you have? What are the challenges that are keeping you up at night? Having that question and back and forth interaction really helps the customer understand, number one, you're interested in what they have to tell you, and two, it allows you to tailor your demo, your pitch, and your follow-up meetings to that particular customer. So it's very much a one-on-one touch that you can easily scale. That's why it's so important to focus on the market and the buyers. And that doesn't mean don't do product collateral. Those are important as well, but rely on your other stakeholders to really help you build those out, whether it's technical webinars, data sheets, and so forth, right? There's so many knowledgeable engineers, product managers out there that can help you with this. Third thing, and I think this is something humans in general forget to do on a daily basis, it's empathize, right? I was on a panel for PMA, the first panel we had 2 months ago. Empathy was a common theme across all of them. And that's because everyone wants to feel human, right? That's actually my IBM security team. This photo was taken 2 weeks ago at a rally we had. That's a lot of people on our marketing team alone. Then we got product managers, sellers, account reps, so forth. Everyone is on a unique journey, not just us. Look, I get it. Product marketers are overwhelmed. We're busy. I am. But so are these guys. So are our customers who have to deal with the actual fires. We're just a vendor for them at some point, right? Leading with empathy helps you understand where they're coming from, what stage of the journey they're at. Maybe they're new to the industry. Maybe they've been there for 20 plus years. Someone has a dog at home to go home to. Someone has kids. Others may not have those. They want to stay in the office longer. Each person is unique. By connecting with them, not only will you make new friends, you don't need Bumble for that, but at the same time, it's great because it opens up the conversation that it enables collaboration cross-functionally. How does that tie into strategy, right? So when you're thinking about strategy, many times I've seen product marketers fall into this trap where they basically get into a silo, lock themselves into a meeting room, and start working on messaging and positioning and go-to-market strategy. That's great, but once you present that to the cross-functional stakeholders, they're not going to buy it because they weren't involved. Get these individuals, whether it's digital, whether it's product management, sales, who are selling your product, get them involved early on so they have a say. This also helps you, by the way, once you launch the product or once you roll out whatever it is you have. Sellers can't complain about you because they were involved in this process. So it's a great way to build a relationship as well as cover your ass. But take that back. Fourth thing, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people confuse product marketing with content marketing and vice versa. I think, Sharon, you're going to talk about some of the funny things about product marketing later, but you don't have to create each and every piece of content. Be the content king or queen and rule it, right? So you are the best positioned to know the gaps that exist with your customers today. You know what's on your website, you know what assets you have, you know what the customer journey looks like. Work with your demand gen performance marketers to understand where the gaps might be. And also you have a pulse on, as we mentioned in point 2, the market and the buyers. Once you have that, you can easily figure out what type of content needs to be created and own the content calendar or the content plan. But that's as far as you should go, and create a couple contents on the way, of course, but rely on your stakeholders. If you're doing a technical webinar, as I mentioned earlier, you have a lot of tech sellers who'd be more than willing to help demo the product, help showcase the product. You have product managers who can talk about the roadmap and so forth. You have sellers who can talk about case studies or customers they've worked with before. Create a blog, create a podcast out of that, reuse that material. The idea here is if you start focusing solely on content, you're going to get stuck in a tactical rut, and it's hard to get out of that. Others expect you to create content on an ongoing basis. Your demand gen team is going to be after you to get that content going because we have signed up for webinars on these different platforms, and we have display ads going. So make sure you have the calendar, own the content, but don't waste your time always creating it. This fifth point is actually very important, and I'll get into why. Is anyone in the audience here, they truly believe their company is 100% customer-centric in everything you do? All right, so I would say IBM is about 75% there. We have a lot of training on being customer-centric, but there are a lot of things that we do that are totally not customer-centric. So I'll be first to admit it. So it's okay to be not 100% there. I love this comic primarily because they're not focusing on the customer goals, they're focusing on the organizational goals. And product marketing, as a result, is often driven by organizational goals. I don't know about you guys, but goals get cascaded down to me, and then I have to look at those goals and then build my own goals based off those goals. That just means we're all feeding into organizational goals. But what about the customers, right? These are the people that are paying your bills, the reason you're employed, and the reason your product actually exists. By focusing on customers, there's a lot of value. Number one, I dare you to walk into a meeting backed by customer data and present something. No one's going to challenge you if you have customer data. So the whole adage around customer is king, it still holds true. And if you have data around what customers are saying, is going to help you strengthen your positioning. 2, when we talk about us being overwhelmed and focusing on priorities, right, there's a lot of things. We do agile marketing, we do sprints, we figure out what's the priority for this week, for this month, for this quarter, for this year. It's hard to make those trade-offs unless you have data to back it up. If you have customer data, it makes it even stronger to say, here's the gap, here's why we need it, here's what the customers are asking for. And not just one of customers, but a volume of customers, right? That's going to make your case stronger. And the third thing really is customers want to be heard, right? If you ever have used, I know a couple of you guys talked about this, G2 Crowd is a great one, Gartner peer reviews. Customers are brutally honest, it hurts. So I know for B2C side, you guys get it all the time. For B2B, it's harder, but the reviews they leave on the website are really thought-provoking, right? So things we put out the product thinking, here's how users are going to use it. They use it totally different, and their view of the product is totally different than from what yours is. So having an outside-in approach versus an inside-out approach is very helpful when it comes to this. So with that, I want to leave you with one last quote, which I believe is super important. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. So we are often told product marketing does this, 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 this. Here are the top 5 strategic things you can do. Take a step back. Think about all the stuff you're doing today. If you didn't do it tomorrow, if you didn't do it for a month, will it really impact the business? There are some things I do today that won't. So those are easy things to take off your bucket so that you can focus on things that are much more strategic in nature. So with that, I want to thank you for coming. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm active on Slack, and my email is down there if you have any more questions, but open to questions here as well.
Yeah, we have plenty of time for questions. Anybody? Now's your chance. We don't all get in the same room at the same time very often, so feel free to dig in. Yeah.
How do you get feedback from customers with, say, they don't want you to use their name or have any kind of connection to your company?
Yep. So great question. The question, hopefully everyone heard it, is how do you get customers to talk to you if they don't want to use a name and so forth. So we actually just had a conversation with the interactions people here. So we work, Jeremy, my colleague, and I, we work in IBM security. Security is one of the toughest places to get customer feedback, primarily for a couple of reasons. Number one, customers don't want to advertise what type of security measures they have. If they boast too much about it, they attract the attention of hackers who want to try to get, dibs on who can attack that first. So in these cases, we, number one, it is a challenge. That's the first thing, right? Setting the right expectation with the organization that it's not an easy task to do, I think is the most helpful, because we have KPIs that track how many case studies we produce on a quarterly basis. Setting those realistic expectations always helps. Second thing we have found useful is having third party involved. Many times customers, when you're talking to them one-on-one as a vendor, they view you as a vendor. So unless you have those relationships, what I mentioned earlier, with that one-on-one personal relationship with them, it's hard to do that. So having a third party vendor incentivize the customer in some way to participate, have their voice be heard, is always helpful. And having the third party claim that it's going to be anonymous, there's more trust in that than there is with the company. So a recent one we did for AI solutions, which again, no one wants to talk about. We did a Forrester TEI study and we used anonymous customers for that. So it's a easier, not the easiest, it's an easier way of getting them to be involved. And the third thing we do is customer advisor groups. So these are basically safe havens for customers to come in. They're not anonymous per se, but anything that happens in that room stays in that room. And it's basically a cross collaboration between we target the CIOs. So chief information officers, chief security officers to come in and talk about challenges that they're having without it having to leave the room. So it's a great place for them to open up about their challenges. So again, it doesn't answer your question about case studies, but it can definitely feed into your market research, into your messaging, positioning, and so forth.
Any other questions for Parag?
There's
I
one
really
in
hope
the-
we can treat
there's
today
one
and
in the
tomorrow
back.
like a conversation since,
Sorry, Rachel,
we're
this
all
side.
here.
On that side.
This side,
Yeah.
sorry. Apparently I can't read directions. Who was it?
That's why. Back here behind this TV. In a small organization, how do you balance what product marketing should own as far as content goes and what demand gen should own? They are charged with putting things out in the market, but you're saying that product marketing should own the content calendar. So how do you kind of balance those two different functions?
Yep, so great question around content management. So I've worked in startups, I've led teams in startups, and now work for an enterprise where I'm one of many, but I still own certain aspects of my product line. So the simple answer is it really depends on your organization, and more importantly than your organization, the needs of your customers and prospects. So if you feel content is one of the places where you really need to focus on, I would prioritize. I personally would own the content strategy, because you're going to be the one driving it, trying to figure out what the gaps are with the customer. And then you can have demand gen. So demand gen isn't really tasked with creating content. Let's just be clear. The job of demand generation is to help you find where your audience is so that your content can be served to them at the right moment, at the right time, on the right channels. And that's really where it's the rubber meets the road. You're creating great content. If that content lives on your website, no one's going to come to it, or unless you have a really good organic website. That's a different story. My take would be own the content strategy, work with product management, engineering, tech sellers, even sales to do webinars, the tactical things of the content side to get that content going. Work with the demand gen counterparts to say, hey, here's the content we're working on. Where do you think our audience lives? Can you help us figure that out? Can we do A/B testing on different magazines, for example, or technology magazines or partner sites that might help us amplify the content that we're creating? So like for us in the security world, dark reading is a great place to be on. Our PR team puts us on Forbes and some other big business magazines. We don't get much traction there because our buyers aren't on there. So it's really about finding that right traction. When I worked in LavaStorm Analytics, that was one of the exact same things we worked on. Our demand gen team was able to find a right channel, which was a very niche big data analytics magazine where all the data analysts and data scientists went to. Once we got that, our webinar numbers shot from around 250 on average to around 800 on average. And that was just for webinars. Then the assets and all drove themselves. You'll know when you find it. It's pretty easy to find out.
Hey, my name's Jen.
Jen.
Question about, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, customer advisory group or customer advisory board.
Yep.
I'm curious, I almost have a 3-part question. It might be too much, but very into this challenge right now at our company. In your experience, which team or teams have most successfully owned the customer advisory board? Secondly, I guess, how did you incentivize or motivate clients to become part of it? And thirdly, what worked well in a customer advisory board in your experience? It's a lot.
Yep, sounds good. So there are a couple of different experiences I've had. The most recent one at IBM, we do not own it. We have an events team that owns it, which makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't necessarily get involved in every nitty-gritty thing. The good thing, as I mentioned with IBM Security, is they do value product marketing and they involve product marketing in most of the tasks. So whenever they're setting up a customer advisory board, we are involved in terms of the topics and the conversations that will be had. And then we're allowed to gear them. So we have user groups and stuff like that where we can gear the conversations by themes and by topics. So that's been really helpful. In other companies where product marketing and I have owned them, we have really helped define the entire agenda. And it's based on customer feedback. So we would actually ask the customers, what is it that you guys want to talk about, hear from others in your industry, and use those as fodder for the topics. On how to get customers involved, that really depends on the industry and the type of buyer you're going after. But for me, it's really been, and someone in IBM Security actually gave me this really good thought-provoking quote, which was, it's not about what you can do for the company, it's about what you can do for the individual. Because you're trying to get to that individual to attend and give you value. So really figure out what is it that you can do to add value to him. Maybe it's a way for him to get free training that helps him, prop up his resume. Maybe it's another thing that helps him showcase himself as a rock star within the organization in line for promotion. So those kind of things are very important. Starbucks gift cards are great, but they only go so far. So it's really about personal growth, education that they really care about. So the Forrester TI study that I just mentioned, one of the draws for our customers to participate was the ability to attend our IBM. It's a master's class, basically, where they get to enhance their skills. So it was great for him, and it was an easy way for him to justify it to his business because, hey, I'm attending a workshop where I'm going to get better at my job. I'm going to learn more about how to be more efficient with IBM products, and it was a win-win all around. You're welcome.
Thank you so
Great.
much, Parag.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wonderful. Great job.